He didn't wear a general's uniform. He didn't have an army as large as an empire. He didn't rule a state, but he terrified the most powerful colonial regime in the world. His words could rally villages, his strategy could outwit generals, and his vision threatened to unravel 5 centuries of European domination in Africa. His name was Amílcar López da Costa Cabral. And in the jungles of Guinea-Bissau and Cape Verde, he launched a revolutionary war, not just with guns, but with ideas. To Portugal, he was a dangerous rebel. To the CIA, a strategic threat. And to the people of Africa, he was a prophet of freedom. But just 9 months before his country would gain independence, Cabral was assassinated. Not on the battlefield, not by a colonial bullet, but by traitors within, under circumstances so shadowy that fingers still point at Lisbon, Langley, and even neighboring African regimes. Who killed Amílcar Cabral? Why did they want him dead? And what was he really fighting for? This is the story of the man who outsmarted an empire, and the conspiracy to silence him. Amílcar Cabral was born on September 12, 1924, in Bafata, Guinea-Bissau, then a Portuguese colony. The son of Cape Verdean parents, he grew up navigating the complex racial and social hierarchies imposed by Portuguese colonialism. His family was educated but not wealthy. They lived among the people and felt their suffering. As a young man, Cabral was deeply curious and intellectually gifted. He won a scholarship to study agronomy in Lisbon, Portugal, where he became politically awakened. While studying soil science, he studied revolutionaries, from Lenin to Nkrumah, from Marx to Mao. But he understood that Africa needed its own path. It was in Lisbon that Cabral met fellow African students and began organizing secret resistance groups. When he returned to Africa in the 1950s, he carried with him more than textbooks. He carried a revolutionary blueprint. In 1956, Cabral co-founded the African Party for the Independence of Guinea and Cape Verde, PAIGC. His mission wasn't just military, it was cultural, psychological, and political. He understood that colonialism wasn't only about armies and borders. It was about identity theft, the erosion of culture, and economic exploitation. He trained peasants not only to carry arms, but to read, write, and understand their history. PAIGC fighters built schools, clinics, and farms in liberated zones. The revolution was not just in the jungle, it was in the mind. Portugal underestimated him. They thought him a peasant agitator. But soon, entire regions of Guinea-Bissau were under PAIGC control. Lisbon was spending more money on this tiny colony than on mainland Portugal. Cabral's strategy combined science, sabotage, and solidarity. He used terrain and timing to win battles. But he also wrote prolifically, delivering speeches that galvanized anti-colonial movements across Africa. By the mid-1960s, Amílcar Cabral had become more than a guerrilla commander. He was a global figure. At the United Nations, he exposed Portuguese war crimes. In Cuba, he received arms and training. In the Soviet Union, he gained diplomatic support. But he was no puppet. He refused to let ideology overtake African realities. That made him dangerous to everyone. To Portugal, he was the man who could end their colonial empire. To Western intelligence, he was a revolutionary who could destabilize West Africa. To some African leaders, he was an intellectual threat who made them look like stooges of the West. And when he began talking about unifying Guinea-Bissau and Cape Verde as a single sovereign nation, outside of Portuguese influence, the empire moved in the shadows. On the night of January 20th, 1973, Amílcar Cabral was shot dead outside his home in Conakry, Guinea. The gunmen were not Portuguese soldiers. They were PAIGC members, rogue agents who had been turned, manipulated, or coerced. But who gave the order? Some believe it was the Portuguese PYDE, the secret police, who infiltrated PAIGC. Others point to the CIA, fearing Cabral's influence in the Cold War chessboard. Still others whisper about rivalries within the liberation movement, or even involvement from neighboring African regimes, fearing Cabral's rising power. No one was held accountable, no trial, no transparency. 9 months later, Guinea-Bissau declared independence. But the leader of that independence lay buried, his blood seeping into the soil he once vowed to liberate. Today, Amílcar Cabral is rarely mentioned in Western history books. His assassination is almost never investigated. Yet his influence echoes through every genuine liberation movement on the continent. He taught that revolution is not a matter of guns, but of consciousness. That to decolonize a country, you must first decolonize its people's minds. His ideology inspired leaders across Africa and the diaspora. And he is part of a long, bloody line of African leaders murdered for dreaming too loudly. Patrice Lumumba, executed with Belgian complicity. Thomas Sankara, gunned down after threatening French control. Muammar Gaddafi, bombed after proposing a united Africa. Amílcar Cabral joins this pantheon of Pan-African martyrs, leaders who were silenced not because they were corrupt or cruel, but because they refused to bow. We must dare to invent the future. The struggle continues, not because we want to fight, but because our survival demands it. Let no African forget, the enemy is not just the one with a gun, but the one who tells you Africa cannot rule itself. Cabral is dead. But Cabralism lives, in every village that teaches its children their true history, in every people that reclaims their land and culture, in every act of resistance that says, Africa will not be owned. This is not just a documentary, it is a warning and a call. Subscribe for more untold stories of African leaders. Thank you.